Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is Sippin' Tea with Nat and Z. I'm Nat.
And I'm Z.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So today's episode is to the left, to the left. Know when to leave the party, the job, and the relationship. So I think this is going to be a good one for us to get into. So what you been
Yes.
up to, Z?
Well, still dealing with this damn asthma,
Hmm.
whatever this is. Just dealing with that. I had to go back into my little self-care bubble and turn the news off once again.
Hmm.
Just because of just the craziness that I've been seeing post-election.
Hmm.
So I took some of the tips that we gave in our post-election episode and used them this week. And that's pretty much really about it. Just kind of getting things together for the holiday.
Hmm.
Because it's going to look a lot different this year for
Right.
me and probably for a lot of you.
Yep.
But yeah, that's it. What about you?
Just still laying low as much as I can. Was able to meet up some of my line sisters and go to the plot and take some nice socially distanced anniversary pics, which was
Mm-hmm.
cool. Someone had a sign of Kamala right at the plot, and we were like,
Of
"Oh,
course they did.
of course, like right at the plot."
Of
So,
course they did.
but yeah, I didn't really watch much news or anything. I'm just excited that I can go up and down stairs, which is great because a couple weeks
Mm-hmm.
ago that was not something that I could do.
Right.
Um, and the self care of just being outside, and it was a beautiful weekend. And being able not to be in the house was, I didn't realize how much I needed that vitamin D until I got
Mm-hmm.
outside. So it wasn't that momentous, so to speak, but it was enough that it was just nice to be out and to be able to
Mm-hmm.
walk around and, kind of take that in. So it was
Yeah.
cool. But I didn't. Oh, girl, can I tell you? So my line sisters started watching this whole what do you call it, Housewives of Potomac, and I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't watch this. Now we all stayed up and watched that till like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I got up this morning. I don't. Do y'all watch that? Because I don't. And now
I,
I'm
I
mad that I
don't
watch.
watch I don't watch any of the housewives. Like I may watch an episode here or there, but I do know the
The
cast of
characters.
characters. So, but yeah, I
Ooh.
don't. That's not something that I take in. No.
Yeah, I've never really, like, when it first came out, like when it was a Beverly Hills one, the original.
Mhm.
I watched that one diligently, and then Atlanta for like the first season, but I haven't
Mhm.
watched it since. And now them girls have me up. I was like, well, what's gonna happen next? Who's gonna get hit? It was. Mm, I might watch it afterward. It was nice to zone out though.
Now, I did see that fight. I did
I
see
didn't
that
see
fight.
which. Oh, I didn't see the fight. This is
The
who?
Molly Wop at the wine was like a vineyard or something.
Oh,
Yeah, I
I'm not
saw
see.
that.
Now I'm gonna have to go watch that.
I saw that. Now that I saw. Okay,
Yeah,
but I just don't. Those are that. Like I'm not a big reality
me
TV
either.
person, so I just this is not something that
I'm
I
gonna have to hit
partake
up my
of.
other girl and get a debrief on the cast of characters because I'm about to take that in just for a little bit this week.
Yeah, I just don't. And you know what? Something that you brought up, rewinding a little bit, reminded me of something. So shout out to our friend Heather, who mentioned us again
Thank
in her
you.
YouTube video, Celestial Goodness.
Check it
Um,
out. It's
sh-
great. I love it.
she talks about the same thing, kind of that she needed to unplug and how she just went outside, took in nature, walked
Hmm.
around, and just kind of remembered that time waits for no
Yeah.
one and that
Yeah.
you have to kind of enjoy the little things. And I think that's
Yeah.
especially important now when we're in COVID and from, by all accounts, you have friends in the know who work for different agencies
Hmm.
who have been telling us and forewarning us before this,
Yeah.
it's been like raging on the news that this second wave of COVID was going to be a monster and
Yeah.
that we all should be prepared. So with my asthma, as much as I like to go and enjoy nature, my black ass gonna be sitting right in here. I'll watch nature on TV. I'll turn on National Geographic and some shit. I don't
Watch
know.
that bitch and be like, this is nice. And like open the window and have some breeze coming in. Talk about this is as much
Right.
nature as I'm gonna get.
That's about it. That's about all I'm gonna get. So um what is the tea? Oh, wait. I'm about to ask you what the tea on the table is. I gotta do the disclaimers. Because
Yes,
again,
girl.
y'all go hear a lot of disclaimers during this podcast. Because what we don't want
Yes.
is you to come back and say, Natalie told me, and Z told me
Mm,
I could quit my
yes.
job, and she told me I
Yes.
need to leave this relationship. Like that,
Hmm.
don't. Mm-mm. But
And
this
I
is
just
so. This
filed for divorce yesterday. And no, we didn't tell you to do that. We did not tell you to do
no, no. So let me get this disclaimer out there. We're
that.
not tea experts. You should speak to your doctor when drinking herbal tea, as there are potential side effects
Hmm.
when mixed with certain medications. Herbal tea should not be a substitute for medication. We're not affiliated with any of these companies, nor are these endorsements. So, what is the tea on the table today?
It is Twinings Focus, which supports mental focus. So we want you to feel alert and on your A game when you drink this blend. It combines earthy ginseng root with some tropical flavors of mango and a bit of tart pineapple. It's a perfect blend for those times when you need a pick me up. And going into the topic of today with to the left, and knowing when to leave, you need to be mentally aware and in sync with what it is you need to do. So you need to be making sure that you're thinking clearly to make wise decisions, which is why we said a disclaimer. You need to be mentally clear on your decisions. Not you need to be
Right.
clear on your decisions. So we definitely want to, something to think about and, take a sip and let us know what you think.
Yeah.
What's going on with the hot tea?
So I got a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
Usher
Ursher.
has Ursher to
Ursher.
known to some of y'all. He has a new baby. The 42-year-old crooner welcomed baby girl Sovereign Beau with his longtime girlfriend Jen. I don't know your last name. I'm gonna just call you Jen G because
Yeah.
I'm not even about to mess that up. Boo. I'm not even gonna do that.
They've been together for a minute,
Um,
right?
I think so. They've been together for a while, and she's adorable. The baby is
I
so
think
cute. Oh
like
my god.
maybe a couple years, probably, if
I
I'm
don't
not
know that
sure.
long.
If I'm
Maybe
sure.
like a year and
So,
a half. I'm not sure.
um, yeah.
So, congrats to them. Pharrell is
Hmm.
launching his own skincare line called Human Race,
Okay.
which is
Oh,
a perfect venture for Pharrell because he is the real life Benjamin Button. I mean, this man is like literally aging
man.
backwards.
He looks
Um,
amazing.
he does. It is described as a new, clean, fragrance free, and all ginger skincare line. It's supposed
Mm.
to debut with a trio of products dubbed 3 Minute Facial. So it's
Hmm.
going to include a rice powder cleanser, which I like
Hmm.
rice powder cleansers. I've used them before and I really do like those. So I'm excited to see how this is going to be. Then you
Hmm.
follow it by a creamy lotus enzyme exfoliator. And
Oh.
then you finish it off with a humidifying cream with snow mushroom extract and soothing rice water. And I've also used products with rice water and also enjoy
Hmm.
that as well. So this is exciting to me. And the products are going to be offered separately, but then they're also going to be offered in a routine pack. And that pack is supposed to go for about $100. So about a good
Okay.
price point. I'm not
Hmm.
sure when it's
Okay.
launching, but the product itself, like the packaging, looks really
Hmm.
good, eye appealing. So I think he has something good here. This is a good venture for him. This is a good look. So
Nice. Nice. I
um
like the name of it.
me too. So Beyonce is surprising fans yet again with another Ivy
Hmm.
Park release called the Black Pack. And this is a
Okay.
monochromatic capsule, and it's going to feature
Hmm.
everything from leggings to biker shorts to jumpsuits and mini skirts. The Black
Ooh.
Pack is set to drop, I think November 17th is the US, the 18th is globally, and then the 19th is in stores. So some of this might have already passed by the time you hear this podcast.
Hmm.
Uh Sorry. Sorry. And if you did hear it, you probably wouldn't be able to scoop it up anyway because
That part.
the
That
bots be
part.
there. Okay.
Mm.
So and then the
Quick
last
fast.
thing, yes, they do. Excuse me. The last thing that I have on the table for hot tea is Jeopardy fans are petitioning for
Mhm.
Reading Rainbow host LeVar Burton to
Pretty rainbow.
replace Alex Trebek as the host. Now,
Mm.
as we all know, Alex Trebek was beloved by
Mhm.
millions and millions of fans, and he died recently of pancreatic cancer after hosting the show since 1984.
Mhm.
And if you want, I would say go onto Netflix. They actually have some episodes of Jeopardy on Netflix, and the initial beginning episodes
Oh,
of
really?
Jeopardy. So if you're interested in seeing how Alex Trebek kind of, you know, his look has kind of, you know,
Progressed. And he
progressed
was
over
like,
the years, it's a
right.
good,
And he was
yeah, it's a good
hosting
one.
other shows at the time too. He was like hosting 2 or 3 shows
Oh, really?
and
See, I didn't
stuff.
know that.
Yeah. He
Yeah,
was hosting 2 other game shows and,
did not know that.
um,
Okay,
yeah, I can't remember the names right now, but
okay, he was getting that bag early.
yes, he was.
Burton, he responded by saying that even if nothing comes from it, he can't tell you how much he appreciates all of the love and support. So, I
That's
mean, I think it
nice.
would be a good look. I like LeVar
Mhm.
Burton. I think he's a pretty even kill person in terms of like
Mhm.
genuinely, generally, people love him. I don't see
Mhm.
like I hate LeVar Burton like hashtags or anything like that. So I don't think that the public would be opposed to it. So we'll
Right.
see. Maybe they'll do what they've done for like talk shows where they do a round of hosts
Mm.
and see what,
Yeah.
you know, who fits, because
Who
even
fits?
though we think he may fit well in that position, you don't really know until the
I
person actually
know.
does it. So we'll
Right.
see. We'll see. But that's it. That's all I got.
Okay, okay. All right, now, so we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to jump right into our tea time segment. All right, now we're back. So, tea time segment. Know when to leave the party, the job, and the relationship. So, this is quite a topic that that resonates, I think, with
Mm-hmm.
everybody. I mean, on all facets of our life.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the first areas we discussed was the party, and that can mean so many different things, but we're taking it literal for certain parts, right? So, when you're at the party and there's a certain etiquette as picking up what hints your host may be throwing out there, like, oh, turning on the lights, looking at their watch, stop the music, talk about you ain't gotta go home, but you got to get the hell out of here. you know, they stand by the door with their coat.
Yes.
I have seen this many times, like,
Mm-hmm.
or you see them come down from upstairs or out the coat room. Host is yawning and just standing there like, whoo, or they come down in pajamas. I've seen that too. like, and some people are like, oh, after party. No, no, take your ass home. I'm ready for sex.
Right.
So, you know, you're falling asleep on the couch, and you hope that you have some folks that are paying attention that
Mm-hmm.
if you're falling asleep on the couch, because there's always that one friend who's already asleep.
Oh, we have that one friend that will
Yeah, that
fall
one.
asleep.
Yes. Or, when it comes to you maybe, tipped your toe into a little too much alcohol and you
Mm.
probably need to wrap it up, get your DD, designated driver, and take your behind home. Call Uber,
Mm-hmm.
Lyft, whatever you need to do, stuff like that. And then also, which is a big one, if the environment is turning into something that you just don't want it to be, like a
Whew.
particular crowd, some drugs, you know, some sexual practices, types things start breaking out. You're like, whoa, whoa, this is not the type of party that I thought it was.
Mm-mm.
And one thing that Z and I had talked about, like when we used to go to the club when we were younger, we may go to the club like at 11, you know, give or take. But now we're mature. We may go for happy hour. And as soon as we see that other young folk come in, we're like, ooh, it's time to go. Happy, it's time.
Yeah,
Even
this
though
ain't
that
this.
used to be us.
Yeah, we're like,
Mm.
it's time to get
Ooh,
out of here.
yes. Look at the
I mean,
hemline.
yes. And there's definitely a grace in knowing when to leave a party,
Mm.
right?
Yes.
And there are social cues. Like I always say, I'm here for the duration. I'm up for the duration. But there are times where I will help a host get people out
Yes.
their house. I'll start cleaning up. I'll be like,
Yes.
you finished with that? You
Zarifa
finished with
has done
that?
that at my house.
You done with
Yes.
that?
She has done that at
um,
my house.
you want a last drink? you know.
You want some
Um,
foil for that food? Let me pack that up
right.
for you.
And
Yeah,
some people
that's
don't know, and there's the lighter side of it, right? Where it's just like people are just like, oh, I'm just having such a good time, and the
mm,
conversation is great. I don't want to leave. But then I think it's the other side where people just you drink too much. Now you falling all
yes,
over the house. You sloppy.
yes.
You about to start fighting with somebody, right? It went from everybody being jovial and light to
Mhm.
people started bringing out drugs and you know um I'll
Getting
give a
up,
quick
yeah.
I'll give a quick anecdote. So,
Mhm.
for my 25th birthday, which was about 2 years ago,
Of
uh,
course, yeah. It was good. We had fun too.
still my 25th birthday party, a friend hosted it at their house, and it was a very lovely affair. Right in
It
the
was
beginning,
fabulous.
it was wonderful. I mean, the food was great. We had libations, everybody was talking and joking. We had karaoke. And as the night progressed, people started getting, more and more inebriated. And I remember going into my friends. This is when I knew, okay, it's time for this party to be over. I go into the garage and dudes out in the garage in wife beaters smoking, shooting dice. When did it become this party? This is
That
not the
was that
party that was
party.
on the invitation that you received. Okay. So at that
It was
point,
saying it was in the fine print, but we didn't know.
and who brings dice with them just in a pocket
Randomly
ready to gamble? Like,
ready to
who
go.
does that? So that's when I knew it was time to wrap it up. I also was a bit
Oh,
inebriated myself to the
that was
point
a
where I
fun
think I had
time.
alcohol poisoning. So that definitely was a sign. It's time to wrap
Yeah,
it up. Wrap it up. Wrap it
wrap
up.
that shit up. That was a fun party though. We
It
had a good
was.
time though. Yeah,
We
it was
did.
fun.
But I mean, that is a key example of what happens when the party should have been over and people should have realized it.
That part. Yes, 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 yes. So, just some cues to think about. But, Z, moving into the job aspects, and
Oh,
looking at
yes.
how you got to think about when is the time to leave,
Yes.
you
And
know.
we've all had bad days at work every now and then.
Mhm.
And there are plenty of times you probably sitting at your desk like, ooh, I'm quitting this bitch. And you ball your
Today,
fist up. I'm like, I'm out of here. I ain't never coming back. And then the next
ever.
day you show up like, hey, everybody, good morning.
Good
Um,
morning. There's donuts in the break room.
exactly. But there are clear signs of when you should know to either give your job a second chance or if it's really time to quit, right? And so we
Hmm.
talked about instances in our lives and talk to friends about instances in their lives when they probably came to that realization that this just ain't for me anymore.
Hmm.
So knowing when to quit is also just as important as staying the course, right? But there are
Hmm.
times when staying the course is just not the option.
At
If you're
all.
bored at work, right? And I'm not just talking about like a day or two. I'm talking about consistently just bored. Like you're
Right.
bored with the assignments that you're getting, you don't feel
Hmm.
mentally challenged anymore. If you're at that point, it's probably time to go.
Right.
Your skills, your skills aren't being tapped. And what I mean by being tapped, like some of us go to school, we get a degree, and we don't always get a
Mm.
job that matches our degree fully.
Right.
But there are certain skill sets that you may have that your employer is well aware of, and they're just not utilizing them. And
Hmm.
especially if you're constantly going to that employer to say, "Hey, I have this skill set. I'd really like to either hone on these or get additional
Hmm.
training to kind of, strengthen these a little bit." And they're just like, oh, okay. And then just put it aside. It may be time
Right.
for you to leave. If you feel like you can't ever win.
Mm.
And that's important because it's not saying that you have to win everything, right? Because that's unrealistic. But if you
Right.
feel like no matter what you do, somebody's
Mm.
always coming at you like, oh, this wasn't good enough. This report wasn't up to par. No matter what you do is just never good enough. It
Mm.
may be time to think of exiting that particular
Yes.
position.
Yes.
If you're feeling physically, emotionally, and
Mm.
mentally exhausted
Ooh,
all
been there.
of the time, it is
Mm.
time to go. And this is important because no one should ever be exhausted mentally, physically, and emotionally in their job
Mm.
consistently. That's the key,
Yeah.
consistently. There are times where you may feel like that, but if it's consistent, that's starting to affect your overall well-being.
Yes. Yes.
And no
Definitely.
job, yeah, no job and no amount of money is worth that.
At all. I've had
I
that. Me and Z have both been through that, and I've had to drive myself to the hospital because I was having chest pains behind
yeah,
my particular employment. So
I
to the
know
emergency
people,
room.
yeah, it's not good. I know people who worked and worked tirelessly and you could see it, and then they get sick and then they just die. Don't even get
Yep.
to retire. For what?
Yes.
It's not worth it.
It's it's not. It's not. And it's
Um,
once you go through it, it's like, okay, you know what? This isn't how it should be.
right. If you are dreading going to work, again, these are consistent things. This isn't like, today I just really don't want to go. If you're consistently waking up and you are dreading taking your foot out that bed to start the day because you just feel
Mm,
like it's just going to be filled with bullshit when you get into the office, it might be time for you to go. You
mm.
shouldn't dread going to work. I mean,
No,
granted,
no.
a lot of us don't want to work, right? But you shouldn't dread it. It shouldn't be a source
Right,
of dread in your life.
right. We're not
Um,
independently wealthy yet to not
exactly,
want to go to work.
exactly.
Yet,
If
yet.
it's right, if it's taking a toll on your health, which kind of goes back to being physically, emotionally, and mentally exhausted. If you
Mhm.
vent about your job too much, and this one is really important for me because when I was a supervisor and my husband, who was my fiance at the time, I'd come home every day and complain about my job. I would call I would call our friend Tisha, complain about my job like pretty much every day. It was like a source of like contention for me. Like every day there was something going on and I could
Mm.
not take it. I'm talking about every day. I would just be like, oh, and this person and that person. And if I wasn't at work and da-da. And my husband said, why are you still doing this job? I said, excuse me? So why are you still doing this job? Like it was the obvious question. And I said, well, because no, if you're coming home every day to complain,
Yeah,
if you're
yeah.
tired of it, I'm tired of hearing about it. So what are you going to do? Because it's every day, it's
Mm.
constant. You're coming home and you're talking about the same people, the
Same.
same shit over and over again.
Yes.
What are you going to do about it? And I am not a supervisor anymore. And recently, I'm still working in close proximity with the people that I used to supervise. I'm actually doing a lot of training.
Mhm.
So we were in a training session, and one of the employees that I used to supervise sent me a private message in the platform we were using. And they said, "Hey Z, I miss you so much. Don't you want to come back?" And I said, "I miss you too, but absolutely not. Hell to the no, 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 no,
No,
no, no,
no,
no.
no.
No. I would never, there's no way. There's only one condition that I would come back in, and that's not going to happen. So it's never going to happen.
Right.
And if you're curious as to what that condition is, Jesus himself will have to come down from the heavens, sit me
Talk about
down at a
you
conference table and say, we really need you to
to
do
come
this
back.
job again. That's the only way. That's the only way. If you feel there's no room for advancement, and again,
Mm.
this is different. We work in the government. So it's
Mhm.
harder in the government for advancement
Very.
than it is in the private sector.
Yes.
But there are opportunities for you to have some upward mobility. But if you feel
Correct.
like there is no opportunity and you're just going to be stuck where you are, you can't move up, then it's time to go. And
Yep.
I feel like there's stages of this at every, I guess, in every phase of your life. Like
Mhm.
there's different upward mobility and advancement is different in your 20s than it is in your 30s, than it is in your 40s, than it is in your 50s, right? So my career advancement in my 40s is a lot different. And that was something that I
Definitely.
had to kind
So
of
true.
train my mind to because it's not going to be what I saw in my 20s or my 30s. It's just
Mhm.
not. And I had
Yeah.
to divine what that advancement was going to be. Now, in my 30s, my career advancement went like I was like, boom,
Mm-hmm.
boom, boom, to the point where I just got used to it. And then, and then it's
You
just like you hit a
plateau.
plateau. And then you're just like, oh,
Well, now
okay,
what?
now what? So make sure that when you're looking at the room for advancement, you're looking at it in that perspective. Okay.
Correct.
It's you have to look at it and know that the
Yeah.
older you get, it may be that the room for advancement might get smaller and smaller. And
And
that's okay.
smaller.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
If
And you
you're
have
not,
to be okay with that.
you have to be okay with that. And if it happens, then maybe this is just a way for you to start having outside interests
Yeah.
that will kind of fill that gap for you, whatever it
Yeah.
is. If the work environment becomes toxic and negative, this is very important. You should not be
For sure.
enduring sexual harassment. You should
No.
not be enduring any type of harassment, whether it's based on your sexual orientation, your religion,
Yes.
your gender, whether how able you are, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of whether or not you have a disability. There is
Yes.
no reason for you to stay
At
in a
all.
toxic and negative environment. You shouldn't. Why
It
would
is
you do
not
that?
healthy.
It's not
It is
healthy at
not
all.
healthy.
It's not. My work
And it's
situation
dangerous
is
for
very
your
dangerous.
mental state.
It is. My work situation as a supervisor became so toxic and so negative that it was a source of like this is why I was complaining, because it just
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a healthy environment for me. And
Mm-hmm.
we'll talk about at another episode being black at work, being
Yes.
a black woman in the
At
workplace,
work.
because a lot of the issues that I was dealing with that became toxic and negative had a lot to do with the fact that I was a black woman
Woman.
in a
Mm-hmm.
position of authority in
Yes.
my job. Like a lot of it. You
Yeah.
don't have to accept it and don't accept it. If you got the boss from hell,
That part.
woo,
Mm-hmm.
stories I can tell y'all. Again, going back to toxic and negative environments. Your boss can make or break your environment.
Yes. And your spirit.
Yes, your boss could literally be the reasons for all the other things that I mentioned before
Yes.
this. It
Mm-hmm.
could just be your boss. You might like the
Yeah.
work and the people that you work with, but your boss may make you feel like you can't ever win. They
Yeah.
make you dread
Can't
going to
advance.
work, keep you
You
from
don't
having any room
perform.
for advancement.
Mm.
So, if you had that boss from hell,
Mm.
deuces. And
Might
then the
need to
last
start.
one, yes, is you just know. And I'll say this
Mm-hmm.
again, that's why we said this is disclaimers. Don't be like, ooh, Z hit this, and this. Let me type up my resignation papers now. Because when I go
Now,
into
and I
that
haven't even
bitch,
done my resume.
right? Because
I
when
don't
I
even
go
do your
into that
resume
bitch,
first.
when I go up in there tomorrow, I'm giving them a piece of my mind because I'm gone. No, 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 no.
Oh, no,
Especially not in
no,
the time of COVID.
please
It's hard.
don't.
It's hard out here for a pimp. Okay. No true
Mm,
words
girl,
have ever been spoken.
right? Just
So,
circle back to our first episode about self care. Look at
yes,
that before you make any those type of decisions.
yes.
Okay.
These are just the keys of you knowing if it's time to leave. There are steps after that that you have to take to
Mm-hmm.
ensure that you have something else. Don't just quit because these things apply to you. Don't do that.
Right. And trying
Don't
to
do
have a
that.
video on Facebook talking about this is how you quit your job.
Right.
Do you have another one?
Right.
Can you keep the new job that you just thought you got because
Right.
of how you quit the first one?
hmm
You got to think about, so make sure you're just mindful of all those
Be
things.
very mindful though. And
Please, please, please.
we've talked about, like, again, this whole episode is about knowing when to leave. And yes, we talked about
Mhm.
the funny stuff like, oh, here's when you know you need to leave a party.
Right.
We talked about, something a little bit heavier, which is knowing when to leave a job, right? But
Mhm.
there's also another area that you need to know when to leave that
Yes,
can be, for some very fundamental reasons, but then for some very serious reasons, right, Nat?
very. Yes, going into relationships. Now, all of these are, when it's time to leave, they all have their respective relationship interactions, right? And you have your relationship with your boss, and knowing when to leave, in the relationship you have with yourself, of when you should say, you know what, it's time to go. Like Z said, you know when you know. Your next part is, what is your relationship with your partner, your spouse, or what have you. Like Z, made mention, she would come home every day and tell her husband and complain. That can definitely add some toxicity to your home relationship, friendships, whatever. But, no matter how much that person loves you, if you come home every single day and all you do is bitch or moan about this, they're going to be looking at you with a side eye like, you know what? You got but one more time
Yep.
before, before I'm out this
True.
piece. And it's important to understand and draw the line between a healthy relationship and an unhealthy codependency relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And being able to discern which is which, and knowing how to let love go. Now, there's a lot of things that can play into that. You're thinking about, how do you kind of focus on how things were in the beginning, the good old days, the honeymoon period, and you have to be mindful that any type of relationship in the beginning is great. That's just because y'all are all excited and in your face and up under each other. And, as relationships progress, Z and I both could definitely speak to that. Things change,
Mm-hmm.
everybody has their representative, for the first maybe couple years, maybe couple months. So everything looks like it's gravy. But then as you go into that relationship and you progress,
Mm-hmm.
if there's certain things that bring you more pain than joy, it's something to take stock of,
Mm-hmm.
and how is that affecting your emotional health? How is that
Mm-hmm.
affecting your mental health? Are there situations where there may be emotional abuse, which is a real thing, and you may think, based on your upbringing and your family dynamics, that there's certain things that are normal, but it's that they're not. I mean, they're normal to you, but that doesn't mean it's any healthier for you to function. And
Right.
if you're going into the area of physical abuse, that's definitely, you know, Z and I talked about that, like folks that have the Stockholm syndrome, where they're
Mm-hmm.
just, they need to stay because they feel like there's no other way out, or they start believing whatever their abuser may be telling them. And, that's a whole other episode that we can talk about too. But those are things that you really need to be mindful of as you're going through when it's time to leave,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that you're equipped enough and confident enough, which is maybe easier said than done, for us to say here, you need to leave. We're not selling you that either.
Mm-hmm.
We're just make sure you have a plan,
Mm-hmm.
and if certain things are going on, or you have a particular confidant that you may be able to talk to, that may be able to help you should a situation arise,
Mm-hmm.
and you can plan to get out when it goes into verbal abuse. And then one thing I think that is really interesting as well, that Z brought up, was the financial abuse that can come into play, that may tie all of these things together.
Mm-hmm.
Why you have the emotional, the verbal, and the physical abuse, because that your partner may try to take over and control of your access to your own money,
Mm-hmm.
and dictate when you can spend, save, and then like take your paycheck, and then you don't ever see it again.
Right.
That that's your money you work for.
It's
I know
real.
back in the day, it's real. I know back in the day, in the 50s and 60s, there was the suburban housewife, and the husband came home, got the check, brought the check home, and then the wife may or may not pay the bills or not, and she may not know anything because that's her husband's job. But then something happened and she's shit out of luck, and he
Right.
gets put out, and you're not in the flow. Or then, you know, using assets for their personal benefit without asking. Nobody wants anybody really. I mean, there's understandings that you have with your partner, but there may be certain areas that you're like, you should ask me first.
Right.
Just don't take liberty just because we're
Right.
together. Just don't
Right.
assume.
Mm-hmm.
That can be very violating for you
It can
as
be.
well. And
This,
it can be like a deep wound. Like you're like, what the hell? I know we're together, but shit,
yeah,
you just you know.
this area I think is a very sensitive, very
Mm,
real area
yes. Yeah.
because there are a lot of people that there are probably some people that in your life
Mm,
that has gone through some level of abuse, whether it's
yeah.
emotional, physical, financial, and verbal. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's if you're the friend who is watching a friend go through this, it's
Mm-hmm.
difficult on you, and it's difficult on your spirit, right? Because you care about this person and you don't want to see them going through these
Mm,
things. But I think one of the things that is important to know is that that person has to get to their own understanding that the
yeah.
relationship is toxic and then they need to go. It doesn't
And that's tough.
matter what you say. If they're not at that level yet, if they haven't reached that
Mm,
type of awareness, they're not going to go.
yeah.
It doesn't matter what you say. And usually with abusers, they like to isolate their victim. And what
Yes.
better way to isolate the victim than for the friends to say, you know what, I can't deal with you anymore while you're in this
Mm-hmm.
relationship. So I'm walking away and I'm distancing myself because it hurts
Mm-hmm.
me to see him hurt you. And that's understandable. But what you've now done is given the abuser the exact environment that they
That
want
they want.
to continue to do the abuse that they have been doing.
Exactly.
And carte blanche, because who's there to protect you?
Mm-hmm.
There's no one there. And we read something recently that says it takes a woman at least 7 tries before she can
Yes.
leave her abuser. So just
Mm-hmm.
keep that in mind. If you have a friend who maybe is out of work, especially now with COVID, a lot of us are out of
Yes.
work. And you may have a friend who is financially dependent upon their partner
Yep.
and they can't leave and they feel like they don't have anywhere to go. And they're
Right.
not going to call you to come to your house because you have a husband and 3 kids, and they're not going to impose on
Yes.
you by coming to your house with their 2 kids.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. That's
And
real.
those are things that we all have to take into consideration. It's not to say that you just shouldn't speak your piece if you see a friend going through this type of abuse, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also just show some grace in dealing with it, because
And
it takes a
patience.
while for somebody to come to the understanding. Because what we know is a lot of people who are abused either saw abuse either were
Mm-hmm.
abused when they were younger or saw abuse, right? Just like the abuser. The abuser was either abused or watched somebody get abused. And
Mm-hmm.
so we have to keep that in mind because some of this is childhood trauma that we're dealing with.
Yep. And then some folks that have never been in an abusive relationship, it's just kind of like, what
Mhm.
just happened?
Right,
How did we get here? It was
right.
like 0 to 100 real quick, and you have no frame of reference. And then what your friends may see on the outside is that you've got it together, that you're
Mhm,
smart, that you make concise decisions, and you take care of yourself. So if that's a perception that you have outwardly, then someone will be like, well, you're a smart person, why would you stay?
mhm.
And it's not that easy because you see that person outside, and then when you see them in the home life, when they're at home, it's different. It's night and day.
It is.
That's also to be mindful of, because you'd be like, yo, that's my girl or that's my boy and they're smart, why would they? I don't understand.
You know why people do
And it's a
that though?
process.
People
Mm-hmm.
do that because they put their own relationship
Mm,
expectations on their
on
friend.
other people,
You can't
yes.
do that. What you
No.
may tolerate and allow in your relationship is going to be different than what somebody else
Yes.
is going to tolerate and allow. And that's not
Yes.
to say that they should tolerate and allow abuse, but there's just certain things that people have to come to on their own,
Mm-hmm.
and you cannot force your belief system or
On
expectations
them.
on them. You can't do it, especially for a
Mm-hmm.
grown person. It's just not possible. You just can't.
Mm-hmm.
We are who we are at this point.
Right, because you never really know what else is going on behind closed
You don't.
doors. You
You don't.
they you own It's a selective information is being delivered because we all don't want to be judged for our
Mm-mm.
decisions,
Right.
regardless of what that may be, or if we're putting our what is maybe perceived that we keeping ourselves in danger. Which
Exactly.
it's something you really have to be mindful of and
Right.
be and consider
Right.
before you tell them, "Oh, you need to leave. You should. Da, 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 no, that
Mm-mm.
means you're like that person is now feeling that much more attacked. and now
Right.
they've lost an ally.
Right.
So it's definitely something to consider. And then even like going beyond that, it's kind of, we touched upon that. What are your values and beliefs if they're different? And if your friends' beliefs are different, and they, Z said, and they try to put that on you, but even a step further, you and your partner's beliefs and values are different, which you develop over time, because the representative that was there during the honeymoon
Mhm.
period
Mhm.
shows up, and they're like, "Who the hell are you? I thought you were like this." And now our value system is completely different, and now there's a rub, and then you just don't feel that about that person the way you used to. You see him walk around, and you're like, "Oh, here they come." You just rather go watch TV, or hell, go jog a mile so you don't have to be in the same
Oh,
in the same space.
girl, let me tell you. So I'm watching The Crown, right? I just started getting into The Crown.
Oh, I forgot it started. I love The Crown.
So I'm on
I need
season
to get back up.
2. I'm in like the middle of
Hmm.
season 2. But I can't remember if it was the end of season 1 or the beginning of season 2. I believe it was the end of season 1. The prime minister, the newest prime minister, because this is like
Mm.
I've gone through 3 prime ministers. I've gone through Winston Churchill, I've gone through
Hmm.
Eden, and now I'm at, I forgot what this one's name is. And
Okay.
he was going to show his wife something in the room, and she was on the phone, and she was like, oh, I just really want you. I don't want him. His touch repulses me. His love
Mm.
disgusts me. And I'm like, damn.
Damn.
Oh, and I'm thinking to myself, like,
Ooh.
why are you in this relationship? Now, again, this is in the, I guess, 50. So, yes, leaving
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
not that easy.
That was like very taboo.
But if you're at that level where the thought of this person touching you repulses you, eh,
That's deep.
it's time to
You
go.
might just mm,
It's time to go.
separate rooms, something. I just whoa, because that was deep.
Yeah.
You know. And then your needs can't be being met if you feel repulsed
No.
by the touch of your partner.
Mm-mm.
There's, and then you don't have any respect for that person, because anything they say or do, you just dismiss it like, yeah, okay, bro, that's all right. Anyway, so what's on TV? Because you could care less,
Mm-hmm.
and then the codependency of, I can't do this without this person. Doesn't mean if you like them,
Right.
love them, whatever, but you're just so attached that you can't imagine yourself, even if you guys are not in lockstep, but you just stay because you feel that need that you have to be with that person, even though
Mm-hmm.
you really don't like them. And I think that's a lot of times when couples, my parents had said this to me one time, that some of the married couples that they knew that got married, when they got married, their children have gone on and grown and out the house, and then all of their friends started getting divorced because after the kids left,
Yeah,
and because they
that's
just
real.
were not, they're not in sync with them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They're different. Everybody's developed different interests. The kids were keeping them together, and and it just is toxic all the way around. And you don't like each other, and you end up like Archie Bunker and the other lady that he'd always be talking about his wife, and she, I don't know, what I'm talking about. And it's just rude, and you just don't need to, just callous, and you're like, why are you still with him? And he
Mm-hmm.
talked to you just any old type of way, you know? So those are some things that you really, got to think about. And what you putting out, your demands.
Mm-hmm.
You have expectations of that person, and they're not giving you anything back.
Yeah.
Or there's no low effort on their part.
And that's real. Like, just looking at this list of when to leave a relationship, right? I go to think, I think it's also a generational thing, right? Our grandparents
Yes.
will stay together, they forever.
Forever.
Like, be talking to each other
Have whole
reckless.
other families.
Right. Be talking to each other reckless. They'll even sleep in
Mm.
the same room.
Room.
Like, should have
Mm.
divorced because he's a philanderer. He's been out there, you know,
Yes.
having relations with Mary Sue and Linda, like,
Yes.
just straight disrespect. So I feel like our grandparents have stayed in it a lot longer. I think our parents
Hmm.
tried to break that
Yeah.
curse. Like, I'm not going to stay in this if
Hmm.
I'm not happy, but I also don't want to be unhappy. And then there are a lot of
Right.
that, you know, I think a lot of that with us, a lot of us, some of us have come from single parent families, right?
Hmm.
single parent homes. I'm sorry, single parent homes. And I think with our generation, a lot of us are trying to make up for the lack of that other parent in the home. So
Being
sometimes a
there.
lot of us stay, like you said, until the
Yeah.
kids get to a certain age and then say, okay, I'm out. And we
Right.
see
I'm
this,
staying for the kids.
like you said, we see this all the time. I mean, this is not
Mhm.
something that
Mhm.
is uncommon or, you know, and then I mean, I think that also the idea of a relationship, whether it's like,
Mhm.
your boyfriend or girlfriend, or if you're married, the idea, the notion of what that is has also changed over
Yes.
the years,
And
right?
roles,
And
expected
roles.
roles.
And some people stay because they feel like, oh, well, if I go out there, there's nobody out there. So I'm going to be alone. I don't want to be alone. I'd rather be
Mhm.
in this relationship, even though it's not healthy and it doesn't make me
Yes. At
happy.
least I got somebody.
Right, but the other side of it is, in my opinion, even worse. Or some people stay
Mm.
because of the idea, like, oh, you know,
Mhm.
marriage is this thing to obtain and aspire to,
Obtaining.
and I got to that point,
Yes.
and so now it's not going well. I can't just abandon ship because what will people
Right.
think? Who gives a shit?
Because I had a huge wedding. Right. But some people get married for the wedding. They don't get married for the
Hello,
marriage.
and that is a true thing. And let me say something, because this needs to be said. You've been in relationships prior to your
Mhm.
marriage. I've been in relationships prior to my marriage. We have friends who have dated prior to settling into the relationship that they're in now. And settling, not saying, "Oh, I'm settled for this person," but settling me, I'm comfortable. I'm happy where I am.
Mhm. Right.
If you don't learn, you are going to continuously
Repeat.
make these mistakes. And you're going to continuously stay in relationships that do not serve you.
Mm.
You're going to
Patterns.
continuously stay in jobs that do not serve you. If you do
Exactly.
not learn from the mistakes that you've made, I made mistakes in previous relationships, ignored flags, and stayed longer than I should have. But I've learned
Mhm.
from those. I learned from those. And it served me better for when I got married, for
Yeah.
when I
Because you
decided.
make different choices.
Right. Now, that's
Mhm.
not to say that the relationship is, that you'll make these changes and then the relationship you
Mhm.
get into after that is going to be perfect, because nothing is perfect.
Mm.
And anybody who tells you
No.
that is a liar.
It's a lie.
The devil
Mm.
is a lie,
That's a lie.
because it's not perfect. And
Yes.
it's not designed to be perfect. But
Because nobody is perfect.
nobody. But you should at least learn. And if you feel after the first failed relationship, after the second failed relationship, that there is
Mhm.
a pattern, maybe you need to
Sir. Mhm.
put a pin in it, get some therapy in your life.
Right.
Figure out why you keep making these choices.
Yes.
I'll tell you
Yes.
something.
Take stock.
Right. I'm gonna tell you something that my therapist told me. you know, my therapist hates these conversations that are being had on the social, like she calls them social media therapists, where they don't have any letters behind their names, but they're experts in relationships and they're experts on personality disorders and behaviors. And she says she hates the fact that everybody's being classified as a sociopath or a narcissist, or they have
Mm.
also, a personality disorder, right? She said, because at the end of the
Right.
day, if you find out that the person that you're with is a jerk, or narcissist, or sociopath. Okay, you found that out. But where's the work? Where is the work at? Where do you need to do the work?
Yeah.
It's not about that
Mhm.
person, it's about you. Why did you choose that person?
Yes.
That's where the work needs to be done. Stop trying to label people.
Mhm.
We label people with the idea that it somehow makes us feel better about the situation not working,
Yeah.
or the marriage not working. That's bullshit.
Mhm.
I don't care if you put a label on it. At the end of the day, why did you choose to be with that person? That's where the work begins. You have to figure out why
Mhm.
you made those choices.
And continue to,
Right,
and figure out why do you keep feeding it and think that you need to sustain.
right.
You know.
You have
It's
to.
just
You have to,
yeah.
because, you know, it's okay to say, okay, this person was a jerk. This person
Yeah.
was an ass. This person
Yep.
is physically abusive to me.
Mm-hmm.
They
They don't
were.
deserve me.
Right. They were an abuser. We have
Mm-hmm.
established that. But why did you stay in that abusive relationship for 3 years? Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Why did you stay in that abusive relationship for 3 years? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, better yet, why did you
Yeah.
get into that abusive relationship? Huh?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Is it because of what other people thought? Do those other people pay your bills? I'ma say no.
No, because we
It's a
romantic.
process though.
Yeah.
There is a lot of romanticizing when it comes to relationships. A lot of romanticizing. People think you're gonna like the whole, and I think it that I blame our childhood. I blame Disney
Mhm.
with the princesses, and the happily ever after, Cinderella, and all that other stuff. We've been trained to think that this is how life works.
Mhm.
You grow up, get 2.5 kids, and a dog, and a white picket fence, and now I'm living the
Right.
dream. I'm soccer mom, PTA, do all that stuff. And then if you don't have that, then the judgment comes into
Mhm.
play. And then you end up like the women on housewives, and they just angry and mad all the damn time, because they try to, you know, feed into what the public is
Mhm.
supposed to accept.
Yep.
And yeah,
And we had this
and that stuff
conversation
ain't real.
recently where we were talking about past relationship. And the question that was asked was, well, were there good times in that relationship?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer was, yeah, we had good times. And I pointed out, no, 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 no. Those were not good
Mm-hmm.
times. You have romanticized that relationship because those good times were tools of manipulation to get you to stay in that
Mm-hmm.
relationship. That's what they were.
Right.
Because you cannot, let me be clear if anybody's listening that's going through this. You cannot be in an abusive relationship, whether it is an emotionally abusive, physically, verbally, financially. You cannot be in that type of relationship and there be good times. You cannot. It's not possible
Mm-hmm.
because the abuser uses those good times to manipulate you into staying, to make you think it's not
Mm.
that bad.
It's gifts. They're sorry. They really mean it this time.
Apologize.
And unless they or they love you, and unless they've made active, and this is not to say that folks that have abusers cannot be reformed,
Right.
because it's not an absolute thing. But that's work that they have to do,
Exactly.
not that you can force them to do.
Absolutely.
So just understand that that we're saying that those good times aren't there, in the sense that you really need to take stock and understand you need to make sure you're good. But that person, no matter what they're telling you, has to own what they're doing
Mhm.
and go get the help that they need.
They do.
So that, yeah.
And that's just in general for knowing and understanding when to leave the relationship. If the person
Mm,
that you're with has to be willing to change. There's no amount of
yes.
love or support or empathy,
Mm,
care that you can give that person if they are not willing and able to
mm,
change. I don't care what
nope.
you do. You could be Mother Teresa. If that person is not there,
There,
they're not there.
they can't receive it.
And it's time to go.
And that's not for you to put them there
It's
either.
not. And, it took a
Mm-mm.
long time for a lot of us to get to that understanding, that level of
Yeah.
understanding. A lot of it does have to do with the way that our childhoods were, right? Like you said, the
Mm-hmm.
Disney, the Keeping Up with the Joneses, the,
Mm-hmm.
the mythicism of, what.
And I think shaming
Oh,
too.
yes, definitely. I mean, a lot of women stay in relationships because people say, "Oh, well, it took you this long to get married. You're not gonna stay with him.
Mm, mm-hmm.
You've been with this man for 3 years. You need to just hold out for 2 more to see if he'll
Yeah.
if he'll propose to you. Because what you gonna do? Who you gonna be with? That's
Mm,
bullshit. That's
it
bullshit.
is. You need to be with yourself first.
It's
You
bullshit.
should be dating yourself.
Hello, good morning. How old was I when I got
Yes,
married? Hello, good morning. How
exactly.
old
I get
was
it.
I? How old
When
was
I finally had the wedding wedding, I was 40.
I? How
Exactly.
old am I? 46?
We were in our
Yes.
40s.
I got married earlier this year. I am 43 years old, okay? I had my child when
Mm.
I was, what, 41? 41?
Mhm. Mhm.
Don't let
Yep.
society dictate to you what you need.
Don't.
You do it for
It's
yourself.
mm-mm.
Because guess what?
You have
You're gonna
to.
be in this relationship, wake up 20 years from now,
Where did
that,
my life
that
go?
partner then left you for somebody 10 years younger. You done gave this person the best years of your life,
Whoo, best.
done missed out on girlfriend trips and vacation for what?
Yeah. Just to say you had somebody. For
Right.
what? But I will say though, as much as we're saying the society is quick to be like, girl, you don't need to be with him, leave him. And then on the flip side, there was like, well, why aren't you married yet? Why aren't you
Mm,
with somebody? So it's
right.
they there's conflicting views that come with it, and they cancel each other out. And because, and I will say though, for some folks, if you have to be in a relation, if you're going to be in a relationship, it takes work.
Mm-hmm.
But there has to be a point based on some of the stuff that we said today when it's like, you know what, there's no saving this. But I'm not saying as soon as the first problem come up, now you out. Like then you can't do that. That's not how life works. So you have to be mindful of how does that look? What is actually going to work for you? What is going to make you happy? Just not because I can say that I have a husband, I have a wife, I have a partner. Just so you can say that and walk around with some bling on your hand. Mm,
Mm-mm.
yeah, but it's a process. It's a process, though.
It is. And let me be clear again. I like saying, let me be clear. Value, like a
Hello.
lot of people, a lot of, I see a lot of people in, I know people who are putting up with relationships that they really should not put up with.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've realized is again, it's the work that they need to do within themselves. They don't see themselves as worthy enough to
Hello.
demand
Church, pass the plate.
a better relationship than the
Mm.
one that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say that again. They don't, they're not at the point where their self-esteem is where it needs to be to demand the type of relationship that they deserve.
Yes. Yes.
So they
Because.
deal with just shiftless people who have no care
Mm-hmm.
whether they come or go.
Yep.
There's there are high demands from that person, but low gains.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lack of respect. The relationship is not
Mm.
helping you grow at all.
At all. Nobody's uplifting, caring each other, helping each other progress, and helping that person learn about what makes them work. Because it should be a partnership and give and take. And if you
Right.
only one giving and they only one taking, you need to take your ass out that damn relationship.
You need to take your ass to a therapist. You need to take some money out the damn ATM and go give it as a copay.
Yeah. Therapy and the copay. We big on therapy in this here podcast. Do it
You got to
if you
do it,
can. It
and
helps.
it helps. Let me tell you,
You gotta get
I'm
the
a
right therapist though.
do. I'm a proponent of therapy. Okay, I talk
Yes.
about therapy probably every episode. I recently had a conversation with a friend who said, "You know how I know therapy is working for you? Because you have conversations with me where I see the growth, where you actually are different than you were 5 years
Mm-hmm.
ago, 10 years
Yes.
ago, 2 years ago."
Yes.
I'm
And
a
you can see where there's patterns and be
yes,
like, you know what, wait, let me sit back and not make that same decision.
right,
And you make better choices. Make good
yes,
choices. Make good
make the
choices.
choices. Um, I, you know, but you have to do the work.
Yeah.
Therapy is not someplace you go and just talk to somebody who say, "Ooh, I'm glad I got that off my chest." Uh-uh, uh-uh, uh-uh. You
Mm,
have to do the work. And again, each of these scenarios, from the funny to the serious,
yeah.
there's a level of effort that you have to put forward.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a level of understanding and consciousness that you need to reach to know if it's time to leave.
Yes. That is so true. Because you also have to recognize what you may be trying to do, the other person literally may not have the capacity to
Nope,
meet you where you are.
nope.
And that has nothing to do with you, but that's something that while this is a process, you may actually acknowledge or come to see that person, they may mean well with the tools that they have, but they are not capable. They do not have the bandwidth, the capacity to meet you where you need to be for that relationship to work.
Yep.
And or if you do realize, when we talked about the love languages, if you are going back and forth with someone and your love languages just do not match, they may not have the capacity to speak to your love language to make that relationship work. And that's something that is going to take time, maybe, for you to accept. Because there's a whole acceptance thing, which sucks sometimes. Me and Z could definitely speak to that. Because we've been through some relationships and we're like, what the hell was I? And 5-10 years later, we're like, what the hell was I thinking?
Hello, good morning.
And how did I grow and what did I get from it?
Well, we hope that by going through a lot of this, that if you're in that middle ground where you're just not sure if you're it's time to leave this relationship, it's time to leave this job, hopefully you don't need to figure out if you need to leave the party, because nobody should be having no damn party right now because it's COVID and we in this
that part.
Okay, so you should be keeping your ass in the house. But if you listen,
and now that they said 10, it need to be less than that.
It needs to be less than that.
Less.
I'm looking at you, Atlanta. Y'all out of control down there.
What is going on? Come on, people.
Thank you for flipping blue, but baby, you need to be in the house, okay? But
I know it's.
But let's go ahead and take a quick break and then come back with our last sip of the day. And we're back. This is the last sip of tea with your hood Dalai Lama. It is always important to know when something has reached its end. Closing cycles, shutting doors, finishing chapters. It doesn't matter what we call it. What matters is to leave in the past those moments in life that are over. And that is attributed to Paulo Coelho. A lot of you may be familiar with his work, The Alchemist. If you have not read that, it is a highly recommended book that I think everybody should read. I have read this book now 3 times. It is such a good book, such an easy read. And it talks about a lot of what we've been talking about today, but also just life overall and the challenges that we all go through and face. So that's the last sip of tea with your hood Dalai Lama. I hope that this has been useful and resourceful for you all.
All right. Thank you all for joining us this week on Sippin' Tea with Nat and Z. You can follow us on Instagram at Sippin' Tea, Nat and Z _pod, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Sippin' Tea, Nat and Z. To get information about upcoming podcasts, topics, guests, and the news. And thank you so much for listening. See you next episode. Navigating family dynamics during the holidays. Now, first, y'all shouldn't be around each other anyway because of COVID, but we're just going to give you some tips. Thank you all. Take care.